Hey everybody, this is Ryan from the Aspire Sports Show breaking down another fantasy baseball position. This time we are going to go with the top 10 shortstops for the upcoming 2021 fantasy baseball season.
Hell yeah!
To kick it off, I feel like this is the only no-brainer of the entire rankings. Fernando Tatis Jr. coming in at number 1.
It off, shift and play and diving is Tatis, up and throwing to get him in time. Fernando Tatis Jr. is his name, and he gets it done again.
He just signed that big contract for 14 years, finished 4th in the NL MVP voting last year at the age of 20, which is insane to think about. He's a career 301 hitter. His numbers only continued to get better with a WAR of 2.8 last year, which was tops for shortstops. I know it was a shortened season, but I continue to think that Fernando Tatis will continue to excel at the shortstop position, especially with fantasy, where you don't see some of the best hitters at the position.
Oh, no.
Number 2 for fantasy baseball 2021 shortstops, we are going to go Trey Turner.
And Turner to center. Back is Quinn.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
Jumping.
It's off the very top of the wall, and Trey Turner's going to have at least 3 right here. The ball rolling around. Here he comes.
It's like an inside the park home run. See you later. It's a 2-2 game.
Trey Turner isn't the sexiest of names for fantasy baseball, but continues to put up really good numbers. He hit .335 last year for the Nationals, WAR at a 2.4, so slightly below Fernando Tatis. Still a decent age.
21.
We may not have even seen his peak yet. As far as the position goes, the Nationals, the NL East, it got a lot better this year. I don't see too much of a production fall, though. The pitching staffs remain pretty strong in the NL East, but it's nothing that Trey Turner hasn't seen. His on-base percentage is another thing that just continues to grow for him as he becomes more relaxed. And number 3, this might be the first, I guess not shock, but the first one coming in that you could kind of shift him down a few or up maybe even in front of Trey Turner if you wanted. But I'm going to put Lindor at 3 this year.
Between third and short. Lindor with a long throw. Got him! Unbelievable play by Francisco Lindor.
I know he's not coming off that great of a season. He was for a long time there before Tatis came in. You could have put Lindor at 1 and no one really would have batted an eye at it. His WAR was definitely below his career average of 1.1 that last year. But as most things that you see when you're coming from the AL, one of the things that you do generally notice is hitters tend to do a bit better when they come to the NL. The NL is pretty strong this year, and like I mentioned last for Trey Turner, Lindor is coming to an NL East that became a lot more competitive with the signings. Luckily, Lindor's on the team that benefited the most from a lot of these signings with the Mets. The Mets lineup, top to bottom, after some of the signings, is one of the better ones in the NL. So I expect him in the heart of that lineup to produce big numbers. Coming in at number 4, another NL guy, I'm going to put Trevor Story here at 4.
Deep short, Trevor. Got him! What a play! As good as it gets. Trevor Story. How about that to end the inning?
I know they lost Nolan Arenado this year to the Cardinals, but I still like Trevor Story a lot. He's one of the better hitting shortstops in the entire MLB. A WAR of 2.4 last year, so he continues to produce on the offensive end. And you can't discount what type of field Coors is playing at. It continues to be one of the most hitter-friendly fields in the MLB. He gets on base a ton. Like I said, with Arenado gone, he becomes the guy in that lineup.
And you are?
I'm the guy.
Not too much competition around him as far as getting the bulk of those RBIs and runs. And I love the potential of Trevor Story. He's still at that age, 26 or still 27. One thing I will say with Trevor Story is he kind of becomes this year someone that you may see a lot of rumblings around the trade deadline getting moved. And obviously if you're trading for a guy like Trevor Story, you're probably going to a contender that's competing for the World Series. So if that happens, that only adds to his value. So maybe kind of get in low at the beginning and hope that you see the numbers towards playoff time and championship time really see an uptick going to a contender in the MLB.
You don't understand. I could have had class. I could have been a contender.
Coming in at number 5, it'll be Beau Bashette.
Shoots it to right, but fair ball.
It has been called a fair ball, and Biggio's going to come around to third, and Bashette is at second. Bashette puts the ball in play and hits it well to right center field, and it's off the top of the fence and caroms away from the outfielders, and Beau's around second and on his way into third with a triple.
I'm fast as boy.
Another young guy that just really he busts onto the scene. And once that happens, they don't really turn back too much. He's only 22 years old. WAR was just a solid 1 this year, but has pops and he gets on base a ton. Like I said, at the young age, he's already hitting over 300, which is incredibly impressive. And I'm always the one guy who, in fantasy leagues that I'm in, it's a little bit of a keeper league. You get to keep 5 guys each year, rolling through the years. So I'm always attracted to some of the younger guys.
Why are you gay?
As far as drafting, because once you get them, you kind of hold on to them for quite a while. So this is another one of these young guys who, if you start off this hot and there's not a ton of flaws in his game as far as fantasy-wise, these are the ones that you want to draft, stash, and get a hold of for the next years to come, especially if you're in some sort of dynasty league. Like I said, at the age of 22, he definitely is nowhere near his potential and his ceiling yet, so definitely get in on Beau Bashette if you can now, and you're definitely going to reap the benefits because that Toronto offense is young and really exciting out there. Coming in at number 6, I think the oldest guy of the group actually, which is kind of crazy to say. I mean, it seems like he's been in the league for such a long time because the Red Sox have been in the spotlight for so long, but I'm going Xander Bogaerts at number 6.
Xander 1 for 3 last night. Jumps on that. That's well struck. That's heading for the 379 mark, and that ball is out of here.
Seeger.
There's a high deep drive, socked way back off the light standard.
WAR last year was a 1.5. It's slightly down over his average, but I expect a more competitive Boston team this year and moving forward because you generally don't see Boston play poorly for too long. So I do like him to play a little bit better than he did last year. Like I said, one of the older guys at the age of 28, you don't really usually correlate 28 and one of the older guys, but for the shortstop position, a lot of these studs are young guys, early 20s. But he remains a 300 hitter, and he's great at getting on base. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, those are the 2 of the things you really want to look for fantasy production. And Xander Bogaerts, like I said, continues to get it done. And with a Boston team that I think is going to be a bit better than they were last year, I like the potential here. It's kind of like a later round pick that could produce at the shortstop position. And coming in at number 7, I have Corey Seager of the Dodgers.
1-2. Hit in the air to center. Back at the track. It is gone. Another one for Seager.
His WAR last year was a 2.1, and he's kind of one where you kind of expect these things sometimes, but he really came on last year offensively with some of the additions, like the Mookie Betts addition. I mean, that lineup is just so good top to bottom, and it really showed in Corey Seager's number as his power and average numbers both went up dramatically with that lineup last year. You can expect them for a deep run too, and kind of some of the things that you have to worry about sometimes with younger guys. Not that Corey Seager's young, he's kind of middle of the pack when it comes to these shortstops. You worry about end of season when it gets near the playoffs that some of these guys may start to get benched or their workload gets taken down, but Corey Seager continued to produce all season last year. They maintained that 1 seed, so I really do like Corey Seager here to continue to improve and get settled into that lineup. Could make a case for him, honestly, to be higher in this, and I wouldn't disagree with you. But once we can see that production over the full season, not the shortened season, especially with, like I said, the lineup being top to bottom so heavy with the addition of Mookie Betts, he's someone that if he starts to fall in the draft, I could honestly see him outproducing some of these guys in front of him, so I don't have any problems if you wanted to take him a little sooner. And quite frankly, I might even be doing this, but until I can see him produce the longevity of a 160-game season, I felt comfortable here at number 7. Once we see it, I'll move him up, but number 7 here is going to be Corey Seager. Coming in at number 8 is going to be Tim Anderson.
Addition to the top of this lineup once again.
So first pitch here, he strokes down the line. Left field corner, there she rolls, and Tim breaks into second base. Tough time digging it out for Stewart, so Tim takes third.
Another guy that kind of, he didn't start off his career super well, but the last couple of years have been super productive for him. His WAR last year was a 2.5. Power numbers up. Last year, the average took a little bit of a dip, but the 2009 season he had, if you can't maintain a 335 average for most of the time, so I'm still looking at the 322 as a really good average, especially when the power numbers are increasing. Those are two things that you definitely look for a fantasy shortstop. He's still only 26 and is another guy that you could shuffle around in these rankings, and that's especially if the White Sox continue to improve and stay in the heat of things in the AL, and especially that AL Central, which I think this might be the year for them for that AL Central. But he is a guy that a couple years, the last few years, you've been hearing Tim Anderson's name quite a bit, and he's really starting to show up these last 2 years. So I like him to continue to improve. I like a really good season out of Tim Anderson, and I don't think anyone would be too surprised by it. So I'm going to keep him here at 8. Like I said with Corey Seager, you could move him up, move him down a little bit if you wanted, depending on your personal preferences. But I'm comfortable with him here at 8, right behind Seeger. And like I said, if they both shuffle up to 5 or 6, I wouldn't be too surprised this season. But number 8, Tim Anderson. Number 9, I could see myself getting a little bit of flack for this one, but the numbers kind of back it up. So I understand where people are coming from, though. Gleyber Torres at number 9.
But the one guy that can't be left out. Nice play there by Torres. The throw to first. Oh, a beautiful.
His WAR is a flat 0 this past year. 2 years ago, if you would have said that Gleyber Torres was going to be coming in now at the number 9th ranked shortstop in anyone's rankings, you would be quite surprised, coming off, I think it was 38 home runs just 2 years ago. Last year, it dipped down to 3. I understand injuries are a factor. The shortened season was a factor. So I do expect him, obviously, to increase on those numbers, and I expect to see more of the regular for 2019. But coming off the season he had last year, I think his batting average is like a 243 or something. Those low power numbers, I mean, those are two things that you have to take into account when you're going into draft this year. You can't just forget about last year and just remember 2019. Like I said, the injuries weren't helpful last year for him. That's what we have to go off, at least for a little bit. So I'm going to keep him here at 9. I do see the potential there for him to move up, like I've mentioned, the last two guys with Seager and Tim Anderson. Gleyber Torres has the potential to be in the top 3, honestly, and we've already seen it from him, so no one would be too surprised. But for now, as today, when I record this at the end of February, I'm keeping Gleyber here at number 9, and that's where it's going to be. But like I said, he's all the potential in the world to be top 3, but for now, the sample from last year, we're going to keep him here at number 9. Rounding out the top 10, and I may completely mess this name up, but Adalberto Mondesi.
Adalberto Mondesi. Adalberto Mondesi. Adalberto Mondesi.
Not even close, bud.
How about a line drive off of Castro's glove? That will score 2. Nicky Lopez goes sliding on the grass. And now Mondi gets a bunt down, and there is no play.
Is coming in at number 10. The WAR of 1.1. The power numbers were up last year. Once you get down to this 10 range with shortstops, you kind of hope for the best, and you kind of take those power numbers as what places you can get fantasy value. So that's why he's going to round out the top 10 over some of these other guys. The average OBP remained close and the same, but stolen bases are among tops in the MLB. And in some points leagues or category leagues where you're getting points for the stolen bases and they start to really add up, that's where you're going to find the value for him at. I think he led the league in stolen bases last year with 24 in a shortened season, which was super impressive. And he still hasn't reached his potential, in my opinion, batting-wise or hitting-wise. So I think the stolen bases being really solid is his floor. So if he can continue to improve hitting the ball wise, you could see him move up in these top 10 rankings as well. But for now, we're going to have him here at 10, and he's going to round out our top 10 with one honorable mention left to go. And our one honorable mention, it feels wrong to even be having to say him an honorable mention because for so long it didn't even seem like that would be possible for him because he busted on so quick and so well. But Carlos Correa.
1 ball, 1 strike. In the air, center field. Correa's watching. This is back, and it's gone! It's a walk-off home run! Carlos Correa has just forced a Game 6 in this AL.
WAR of 1.8 definitely is better than some of these other guys that are on this list, but the power numbers are down, the average is down, the slugging's down. Obviously, last year being a weird season, shortened, you don't want to hold that much against him because we've seen Carlos Correa be super successful in this league, hitting the ball. And honestly, I'm a Carlos Correa fan, so I'm hoping that he moves up this list. But we just haven't seen the same Carlos Correa we have before the whole trash can gate, and I'm hoping for better from Carlos Correa, because like I said, he is a fan favorite, especially for me. But honestly, honorable mention is where I'm going to have him. Some of these other guys, the potential, and they've shown year after year. It wasn't just a 1 year off like Lindor had last year, because I think Lindor really impresses once he goes out into the NL. But Carlos Correa here, I need to see some sort of bounce back from him, and especially in that Houston Astros lineup, because all in all, that was just an uneventful season last year for them. So I'm going to keep him here at honorable mention, and to round out the list here as Carlos Correa. That will be the end of our top 10 plus one honorable mention for Fantasy Baseball 2021. I hope you guys enjoyed the list. If you guys have any sort of questions for Fantasy Baseball, or maybe I left one of your favorite players out, or you think I kind of snubbed a guy, feel free to reach out in the comments below. I'll get back to you guys when I can. Look for more videos coming through. We did have our starting pitchers one come out already. I'm going to be posting one soon about just fantasy baseball in general, and kind of going over some of the things that I've noticed throughout fantasy baseball. It's a lot of fun. Keep up with it, though. If you're lucky enough to be in a league where you set it once a week and it's just set and watch, those are a lot more enjoyable. That way you're not looking over everything and numbers crunching every single day. But like I said, feel free to comment below. Thanks for the listen, and if you enjoyed our stuff, subscribe so you can continue to be updated with our fantasy baseball and all sports fantasy. So we appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening today.